I'm about to introduce you to probably the most powerful tool in the 7Sim suite. It's called the IP technique, and it's a form of controlled brainstorming. And the whole idea is to get a group of people, and in the case of workshopping the perfect future, the stakeholders to the process, in a room at a point in time and saying, hey, let's talk about what this would look like in a perfect world using this technique called the IP technique. Okay, what does that actually require? It requires every single one of those people to have a post-it note and a marker pen. It requires 4 pieces of butcher's paper up on the wall. It requires everything that's listed in the tool guide here, and it steps out exactly how you can run this opportunity. Now, most of you listening to this will have done some sort of brainstorming in the past. So I want to point out what makes this particularly significant as a brainstorming tool. We think it's the best around, but you test and judge for yourself. The first thing is we have a trigger question up front. And so we actually ask a question. Describe the perfect future of whatever. For example, if you wanted to know what is the perfect cup of coffee for a group of people, you'd ask a question like, describe the perfect coffee experience for you. And then you'd prompt them to think about the ambience, the taste, the smell, the heat, those sorts of things. And so you're drawing information out from them. So the trigger question is the first thing that's important. The next thing is the actual process of the IP technique, and I'll explain that very briefly now, and I encourage you to follow the bouncing ball in the tool guide and do it exactly as it states. And that is this. After you've initially set up with your butcher's paper and all that, you then gather the information. You collect those ideas. That's the information on the post-it notes, writing in uppercase, with marker pens, all that stuff. You've got everyone involved, quiet people, loud people. Everyone's involved in the process. You collect those ideas. The more the merrier, but obviously avoid direct duplication. Okay, once you've collected those ideas, then you prioritize them. And you give them the choice to say, of all those ideas up there, name 3, sometimes if you've got enough things up there, 4, the most important issues in response to the trigger question. And so those ideas, then they start to say, well, this one's important, and you collect that prioritization. And you see the one with the most votes is what you use to start to theme the different areas that the brainstorming is involving. So for example, you're workshopping the perfect future with a 7Sim improvement project. You've asked them the trigger question, they've responded, they then voted, so you have a whole list of priorities. Then you can theme them appropriately, and you end up with very precise themes, and better than that is you end up with scores of priority, so you know exactly what's important, and then you can not ignore but not take into account with as much emphasis those things that don't get a vote. So that's the idea of the IP technique. Ask the trigger question, collect the ideas, prioritize the ideas, and then theme the ideas. And you end up with a very discrete and prioritized list of things that are important about describing the perfect future.